Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Laura Jibril Garba from School of Continuing Education, Bayero University, Kano. I'm the facilitator of Group B2. I'm going to take this course, Use of English, GSP 1201 for Level 1 and 2201 for Level 2 for the 2020-2021 session. As I said earlier, I'm going to start with Module 1, that is Vocabulary Development. Vocabulary development focuses on the ways through which we boost or we enhance or we expand our vocabulary. Vocabulary development is an essential ingredient in spoken and written communication. For one to speak fluently or eloquently, he has to have good number of words of that particular language he is communicating with. In this module, we are going to look at some items, some of which are connotation and denotation, registers and jargons, phrasal verbs, and then idioms. As I explained earlier, vocabulary development has to do with the ways through which we expand the number of words we have in a given language. So for one to expand his vocabulary to get more words, he has to know the meaning of that particular words and know how to use that particular word in a given context. There are many ways through which one understands the meaning of a word, because knowing the meaning helps one on how to use that word correctly and in a suitable context. We can understand the meaning of words in many ways, some of which are through the origin of the word or etymology. We can also understand the meaning of words through their sounds or onomatopoeic words. We can also understand the meaning of words by looking at their root or base of those words. Another way of understanding word meaning is through borrowing words to know where those words are borrowed from. Grammatical category of a word is another way or form of understanding the meaning of a word. Context is a situation whereby a word is used appropriately. That is to say, we can understand the meaning of a word from the context it occurs. Intuition is a way of understanding of word meaning. Dictionary should be the last thing we consult while looking for word meaning, because it is time consuming and it distracts the meaning of given sentence, spoken or written form. Now we are going to take each one and explain it. Number 1, origin of word or etymology. Understanding the origin of a word helps in understanding that particular word. Some English words originate from other languages such as Latin, French, Portuguese, and Greek, while some are originated from Arabic language. So understanding the origin of that particular word helps in giving clear picture of that particular word, because there are certain words, looking at them from English perspective, it might not give the actual meaning of that particular word because it originated from different language, not English language. Let's say, for instance, by looking at the word manipulate, the part or the syllable of this word, man, it doesn't, or it has nothing to do with gender or sex, as we know from the English perspective. So manipulated is from the Latin word, that is money plus, which means handful. So these examples show us that origin of a meaning is one, or it is a form or strategy or way of understanding the meaning of a word. Number 2, the sound or onomatopoeic word helps in understanding the meaning of a word. As I explained earlier, understanding the meaning of word helps one to expand his vocabulary, that is, to use that word in his writing or in his speaking, that is, written and then spoken from. The meaning of some words can be derived from the sound produced when producing the words. Let me give you an example of this sound. Mew. Mew goes with the meaning of the words. As we know, mew is a sound, but it goes with the meaning of that particular sound. Also, bang, tick-tock. The words, the sounds, and the meaning of the words go hand in hand. These are what we call onomatopoeic words. The third one is the root or base of a word. The meaning of a word could also be ascertained by understanding the meaning of the root or the base of the word. A root is the basic word to which affixes can be attached. When we say affixes, they are syllables added either before the root word or after the root word. Let's look at this word, act. Act is a root word, while active is a root word attached to a suffix, that is "eve." That is, the root word is act, and another syllable or a syllable is added to it to make it active. That "eve" added to the root word is what is called suffix. But in a situation when we say inactive, in this particular situation, there is the addition of prefix in and then a suffix if as what the root word active. A base, on the other hand, is a word which gives the basis for the formation of a new word. It functions as a root, but it's distinct because the base can be further broken down. What this is trying to say is that there is a thin line between a root of a word and base of a word. A root of a word cannot be broken into smaller units, while a base of a word can be broken into a smaller unit. The next thing is loan words. There are words borrowed from other languages and are used in the new language without changing the form of the word. What this is saying is that another form or way of understanding meaning of a word is through understanding whether it is the originated word of that particular language or it is a borrowed language. For example, when we look at the word safari, it is a borrowed word from Arabic language, and when it is borrowed, the form has not changed. That is, it is used in English language without changing the form of the word. That is, it is used the way it is in the Arabic language. Also, when we look at the word cartoon, it is an Italian word. That is, it is borrowed from Italian language, and also it is used in English language without changing its form. This is telling us that loan words can also help us to understand the meaning of a word, and understanding the meaning of a word gives room for using that particular word in our written or spoken form. The next thing is grammatical category of a word. Grammatical category of a word, it is what we know as part of speech of a language. Part of speech of English language, as we know, there are 8. Noun, verb, adverb, adjective, pronoun, preposition, and so on. So knowing the word class of words helps to understand the meaning of a word. For instance, knowing that a given word is an action word, that is a verb and not a noun, promotes the possible understanding of the word meaning. For example, when we look at the word teach, when we say I teach or you teach, that teach is a verb. It is an action word in that particular sentence. But by adding er at the end of the word teach, it changes or it drives or it moves from a verb to a noun, that is from teach to a teacher. So when we know the grammatical category of words, that helps us in understanding the meaning of a word, and that helps us to know how we are going to use that particular word. As we know, the structure of English sentence is SVO, that is subject, verb, and object. Subject is the doer of the action, then the verb, that is the action word, and then the object, that is the receiver of that particular action. So when we know that teach is a verb, not a noun, so While constructing English sentence, we cannot start with teach at the beginning of that sentence because the subject of the sentence should either be a noun or a pronoun. That is at the basic level. The next thing is the context. The environment in which a word is used helps in suggesting the meaning of the word. That is, the environment where a word occurs helps in understanding the meaning of that particular word. Let's say, for example, when I say see, it could mean S-double-E, and it could mean S-C-A. But by using the word in its context or in a given context, it will give a clear meaning of that particular word. For example, when I see with my eyes. By saying I see with my eyes, the context helps us in understanding that I'm talking about the word S-double-E, not S-E-A. So this is what we call context. By this example, we can understand that context plays vital role in understanding the meaning of a word. The next thing is intuition. A native speaker of a language has the intuitive or innate knowledge of his language. Similarly, a competent user of a language has an intuitive knowledge of the language as well. This is achieved through extensive reading and exposure to the second language. And in other words, practice helps in getting the knowledge of a particular language. The more we read extensively, the more we communicate with the other speakers or the native speakers of other languages, the more we get more knowledge of that particular word. By knowing or by having the knowledge of that particular word will help us in using that word in a correct context. Dictionary, as explained earlier, should be the last thing one should consult. Why? Because when you are reading or listening to a program, when you are watching or listening and looking at your dictionary, it will definitely affect the meaning of that particular information you are looking for. That is, use of dictionary should be the last thing one should do while looking for meaning of a particular word. The next thing we are going to look at is denotation and connotation. Meaning can be actual or literal, where the item which the word presents can be identified in the world. Denotation or denotation meaning is the primary meaning or the literal meaning of a word, while connotation meaning is the secondary meaning or the applied meaning or the additional meaning of that particular word. Meaning can be sense or literary, where the meaning of a word is by association the actual meaning of a given word and extending it by sense to relate it to other experience. As I explained earlier, denotation is the primary meaning or the literal meaning of a word. For instance, a dog means a type of domestic animal. That is the primary meaning. That is the dictionary meaning of a dog. But this word dog can also have a secondary meaning or an associated meaning, which can mean ugly. That is the connotative meaning of a dog. Also, when we look at the word blue, blue simply means color. That is color blue. That is the primary meaning of the word blue. That is a color. And it could also have a connotative meaning, that is the secondary meaning, which means feeling sad. So we can see that denotation and connotation helps in expanding our vocabulary. In understanding the two concepts of denotation and connotation, we can highlight the similarities, if any, and differences in their features. Number one, both connotative and denotative meanings are types of meaning available to users of every language. Number two, denotative meaning identifies items in the world, like donkey is an animal with 4 legs, usually used for carrying heavy loads, while connotative meaning is a sense relation, or it is the secondary meaning or the associated meaning of that particular word. For example, the meaning of a donkey can be extended to a human behavior based on the speaker's knowledge of donkey, as I give example with the word dog and blue. Number three, denotative meaning is stable relationship. When we say stable, it doesn't change. Everywhere you go, the meaning is the same. While connotative meaning is unstable. It changes, depends on the speaker's experience or speaker's reference. The next thing is the fourth, item, the fourth feature of the connotative and denotative meaning. Denotative meaning is concrete, while connotative meaning is abstract. When we say something is concrete, it's something that can be seen, touched, and feel, while abstract is something that you can just feel it, but you cannot see it or touch it. For example, experience, love, happiness is something which you can just feel, but you cannot touch or see them. The fifth one is that in denotative meaning, a word may denote an item or entity with different shades of meaning. Example, the word teacher has different shades of meaning, such as teacher, facilitator, lecturer, and so on. Whereas in connotative, we associate meaning with other abstract nature, such as behavior, event, feeling, idea, and so on, which has similar characteristics. Example, woman has to do with something gentle, pig with dirty, rat with thief, and so on. It is important to know that words which have different shades of meaning also bring about the incidence of synonym in language. When we said synonym, we are talking of similarity, because there are words that are similar in meaning. For example, tall and high, big and large. They are synonyms. That is, they have similar meaning. They have similar meaning. Also, words which have different shades also have synonyms. That is, they have other words that are similar, as we can see from this example given in this slide. Another important thing is that literary writings are known for the proper use of connotative meaning as seen in the literary devices. That is, in literary writings, we have more of connotative meanings like metaphor, irony, imagery, and so on. That is, when we say somebody is like a lion, it is telling us that that person is very strong. The third one is connotation carries negative and positive meaning. Some synonyms differ in either the negative or positive implication of a word. For example, when we look at the word interested, interested is this a positive connotation, and it also has a negative connotation, that is nazi. Also, when we look at the example like employ, has positive connotation, and it also has a negative connotation, that is exploit. Employ and exploit are similar in meaning, while employ has positive connotation, exploit has negative connotation. The next item we are going to look at, the next items are registers and jargons. A register is a conventional way to use a language that is appropriate in a specific context, which may be identified as situational. That is, we can recognize specific features that occur in religious language by the use of a particular word that is, or that has to do with either a religion, law, medicine, tourism, and so on. This professional use of language is known as register. It is necessary and useful for members of the professional group to use specialized vocabulary in their field, that is registers, as a sign of expertise in their profession. Register work like a profession code. That is to say, a register is used for a given profession to show to differentiate it from other professions. For example, when we look at, now we are going to look at some professions and their registers. As we said that register has to do with profession. In order to know the meaning of a word, it is very important to know the register of that particular word. For example, in law, we may come across words like prosecutor, defendant, accused, and so on. Also, when we go to linguistics as a field, we can come across words like phony, allophone, syllabic consonants, and so on. This is telling us that each profession has words that are suitable for that profession, or that has to do with that profession. We can see the words used in law is different from the words used in linguistics. Also, when we go to politics, we can come across with words like controversy, candidate, and so on. And also in religion, there are words that has to do with the religion, also with the medicine. If you go through the slide, you can see the examples. Jargon is one of the defining features of a register, which is special technical vocabulary associated with a specific area of work or interest. That is, one of the defining features of register is jargon. And jargon has two different meanings. The first meaning has to do with the technical vocabulary of a profession, trade, or a activity like law, medicine, football, cricket, and so on. And the second meaning has to do with the obscure and pretentious use of language. That is marked by a roundabout way of expressing and use of long words. For example, if you look at the word alamorph, is only for person who is familiar with linguistics words will easily understand the word alamorph. So jargon is one of the features used in register. The next thing we're going to look at, that is the next item, is phrasal verb. A phrasal verb is a group of words which consists of a verb and other participles, where the participles are preposition, adverbs, or both. That is, a combination of a verb and preposition, or a verb with an adverb, or a verb with a preposition and adverb at the same time. A phrasal verb is an idiomatic phrase consisting of verb and other elements. As I said earlier, typically either an adverb or a preposition. For example, when we look at the word call off, call is a verb while off is a preposition, but they are bring together as a word, that is call off. And the next example is add up. Add is a verb and up is an adverb, and they are bring together to form another word, that is add up. And also, if you look at the next example, catch up with, here we can see that there is a verb, catch, up, adverb, and with a preposition. A phrasal verb consists of 2 or 3 words from different grammatical categories, as we can see from the example given. There is a corresponding lexical verbs for every phrasal verb, which means the same as the phrasal verb. For example, when we say look for, means to search for something. Put out, to extinguish. Bring up, to raise. Phrasal verbs are subdivided into separable and non-separable phrasal verbs. Separable phrasal verbs can take a word inserted between the verb and the participle. For example, break up, a breakdown versus break the topic down. We can see that the separable, they can be separated and give room for another word to come in between the verb and the participle. Break is the verb, down is the participle, and then when we look at break the topic down, we can see that the topic is inserted between the break and the down, which shows that it can be separated. Also, when we look up bring is the verb, up is the participle, That is the adverb there. And also, your child is inserted in the example given. That is, bring your child up. But for the non-separable appraisal verbs, cannot take a word inserted between the verb and the participle or participles. For example, look for. We can say look for something, but we cannot say look something for. That is, something cannot be inserted because it's under non-separable phrasal verbs like hold on, stop by, sit up, and then so on. Furthermore, phrasal verbs are divided into literal and non-literal phrasal verbs. The literal phrasal verbs, just as the name implies, denote a literary meaning which is not taken idiomatically, while the non-literal phrasal verbs have literal or idiomatic meaning. For example, when we say look up or look down, can take a literary meaning which denotes an upward, while the phrasal verb look down can take a non-literal meaning that is masterful or to feel superior to. Other examples include hang up, sit up. We can see that they have other meanings. The next thing we are going to look at, or rather the last thing, is an idiom. An idiom can be defined as a group of words which has special connotation not usually equal to the sum of the meaning of individual words. That is, an idiom is a group of words whose meaning cannot be predicted from the meaning of the individual words in the structure. This means that idioms are opaque in nature. They are not something that are transparent, something that you can see. It is a group of words whose meaning cannot be explained in terms of habitual meaning of words that make up its parts. It is a group of words with a meaning that is different from the meaning of each separate word put together. As we are going to see example of idioms, let's say for example, when we look at the example under the weather. Under the weather means to be ill, but you cannot understand the term of the meaning under separately, the weather separately. That is when you say under the weather means ill. Looking at the individual words, you can see that there is no relationship between to be ill and under the weather. That is why it is already explained that idioms cannot be explained in terms of habitual meaning of the word that make up its parts. Also, when we look at this word, beat around the bush, if we take the word beat around separately and the bush separately, we may have different meaning, but the idiomatic meaning means to avoid talking about what is important. Get your act together means get organized and do things effectively. And also hit the sack means to go to sleep. But when you take hit separately and the sack separately, you cannot get the meaning you are looking for. So idiomatic or an idiom goes beyond the individual words that come together. Also, you can see many examples when you go through the slide. Other examples are here in this slide, where you can see the idioms at the left hand side and the meaning at the right side of the slide. At this particular juncture also, we come across more examples of idioms, but these examples are not enough. You can get more from other sources such as dictionary and then other books. For example, the word cut corners means doing something in an easier and less expensive manner. Boil the ocean means taking up an almost impossible project. Keep an ear to the ground means staying informed and updated about something. Eat like a horse means eating too excessively. All these are examples of idioms. And if you have more idioms, you can play with the language. You get the idioms from the way you want it. And the more you have, more words. Idioms are semantically like a single word but don't function like a word. Idioms don't change or take on grammatical features the way that nouns would take plural forms. For example, in nouns we have singular and plural like car, cars, boys, girls. Also in verbs we have tenses form like the word cook, we have cooked, we can have cooking and cooks for the third person singular. But in idioms, there is no provision of this pluralization form or tense form. And then you can see that the idioms and then phrasal verbs are not the same, because in phrasal verbs there are certain class that come together to form a phrasal verb, while in idioms there is a combination of different words from different classes or grammatical classes. Also in idioms, the number of words could be more than 3, while in phrasal verbs you can see there are either 2 or 3 words. Thank you for listening. We come to the end of this module, that is module